Right, so I did first impressions of Shenmue 3. It's probably only appropriate I do final thoughts. So yeah, I just finished Shenmue 3, and given that I was waiting almost the entire stretch of time between the release of Shenmue 2 and 3, should probably say something. And yeah, I'm using the same footage as I used last time because I could not be fucked to capture more. Also, I don't really want to spoil the story for any who haven't played through it yet. So, I said in the first impressions, this holds true in the final thoughts. It's a Shenmue game in every sense. It is completely, well almost completely, faithful to the first two. Sometimes to quite a fault. I mean, there is a lot of what I would call filler to this game. There is a part where you've got to look through a room for an object. And, well, you've just got you check every drawer. And it's just, they could have streamlined a way to help you do that more efficiently. And a lot of the story is just you looking for things, going around town and asking people things. And I know that's always been part of Shenmue, which is which is why I say it's faithful to a fault, because it was known before this game was finished that it wouldn't finish the story. But really, the reason given was that there was too much story to put into one game. And I'm sorry, but this game is not forthcoming enough with the story to make that claim. Perhaps there would be enough in one game for the whole story if they would let us get on with it. Is one of the thoughts I was having when I was going around kung fu shops describing animal movements that I don't know how I was supposed to be able to identify. But yeah, and I don't think it's too much of a spoiler to say that it ends on another cliffhanger. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
1-inch punch.
You've probably heard that by now. As for the gameplay itself, again, completely faithful to the series. The only fault is when it isn't, to be honest. If that makes sense. Because of all the things that they didn't change that I think they could have, the one thing they changed that I think could have done with being left the same was the free battle system. Because I've had a lot more time with it than I had when I first captured this footage. And, well, firstly, there are no throw moves at all, conspicuous by their absence of the throw moves. And it just feels like a watered-down version of what we had before. I preferred the old version. I don't like this one. And I read that the changes were made to make it more accessible to less experienced players. I don't think it does that. I don't think it does that, because I found this battle system not only less fulfilling, but also harder than the other ones. But then maybe it's just because I was used to it.
Going?
And
I'll save it for later.
another thing I've got to say is there aren't really enough fights in this game.
Horse stamps, huh?
Like, there are a
Maybe I'll give
few.
it a shot.
And there are some returning characters. One particular returning antagonist from Shenmue 1 turns up again, but your encounters with this person are reduced entirely to a couple of short QTEs, which I suppose is in keeping with the fact that Ryo has supposedly improved as a martial artist over the course of his journey. But also, I would have liked to have been able to fight them. there is enough fighting to do if you go out and look for it. And there are some really good mini-games. I particularly like the fishing mini-game in this one. I always like fishing mini-games. I'll probably never buy a dedicated fishing video game, even though I know some exist. But if a otherwise unrelated game has a fishing mini-game, I'm probably going to be all over it. So yeah, I spend a lot of time with that here. The best way to get money is by gambling. There are lucky hit stands with like ridiculous odds that give you high returns, and you can just save state it. So that's how I got money in this game. There is at least one point in the game where you need, I think, 5,000 yuan to progress. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, it's not as much of a barrier as I think it's trying to be, for the reason I just mentioned. But a thing that quite annoys me is there isn't as much a challenge to get through the story as there are little barriers to plot progression. Like, I don't know, look through every drawer of a temple for a picture to progress to the next part of the story. Oh wait, no, it's not even in any of the drawers, it's on the wall. But there is a Sega Saturn in one of those drawers in 1987. I'm rambling now. Yeah, I do like this game in spite of what I'm saying about it. I just couldn't recommend it to anyone that isn't already a Shenmue fan. And I think that is a problem. Because I love this game, and I love the Shenmue series. I don't like the chances of a Shenmue 4 happening, if I'm being honest. I don't know how well this game is selling, but I haven't exactly heard good things. If only because I haven't really heard anything, and I think that itself is kind of a problem. I think most of us that wanted it just got it and happily played it, and the rest of the world just sort of didn't notice. That is the impression I'm getting. And I wanted this to do well because I do still want to see the end of the story. But
have you come to spar or fight one of the monks? Which will it be? So, you've chosen to fight? Then
there was also a few controversies with the PC version, specifically, and I just don't think EastNet is going to get this kind of a chance to make a Shenmue game again. And hopefully this does well enough to secure Shenmue 4, but even if it does, I don't think there would be a Shenmue 5. So my advice, I know nobody's asking for, would be to try and finish it with the next one. And maybe, you know, put less of the runtime into going around and asking people where the next part of the plot is. Which is more of this game than I would like, if I'm being honest.
Your techniques on the wooden dummy.
There was also the hunger meter, your life meter being replenished by food was an interesting addition, but in practice it was more annoying than not, because sometimes you get into a fight in the story, and, I was running around a lot. I wasn't really paying attention to the life meter, so you end up in a fight with low health. And also, again, I'm trying to think how I can say this without spoiling, but the story's also quite repetitive. Like, there are several times where there's a tough enemy that you can't beat until you learn a move. And the first one takes you down once, you learn the move, go back and beat him. And then the second one takes you out, you bring in backup, he takes you out again, and then you go around shops asking about his style, and then you learn what I think was the same move to go and take him out in what was an incredibly rushed climax, in my opinion. And, like, the person you go to all that trouble to take down isn't even the final boss. He's like a mini-boss right before the final boss, which is really anticlimactic. And then after that, that's just kind of it. Like, there are things in the game I really liked, so I'm going to try and focus on those to end it out with. There is a part in the second play area called Niawu, where you can make international phone calls, and you can call characters from the previous games, none of which have their original voices. Yeah, some of the voice changes for the characters are a bit jarring. Like, in particular, spoiler alert, Lan Di does appear in this, and you do hear him speak. And that was the most jarring for me, because he doesn't sound anything like what I imagine he should. And that's all I'm saying about the plot there. But you can call characters from the previous games and catch up with them. I thought that was a really nice feature. I enjoyed that.
So close. That's it. Perfect.
There's also the guest book in that hotel, which I imagine was a backer feature, where people leave their just a message. I assume that was for people who gave more money to the Kickstarter than I did. I just got a copy of the game, which I was happy with. And then also in Niawu there is a Save Shenmue museum that you can look out for, which is a lot of fun. And a tomato convenience store pops up there as well, with the familiar jingle from the first two, so that was nice. There's a lot of nostalgia to be had, and I think that's going to be the main appeal of this game overall, is nostalgia, which is a hell of a drug. I had a blast playing this, and I don't expect anyone who's not already familiar with Shenmue to have quite as much fun as I did, or as a fan would, and that is kind of a problem, as I say, because this game needs to do better than I think it's been doing.
That's it.
If we're gonna get Shenmue 4. But then I'm not gonna torture myself over Shenmue 4 the way I did hoping for Shenmue 3 for all those years. I got Shenmue 3, I was glad to get Shenmue 3 and I enjoyed it. If Shenmue 4 eventually happens, fantastic. I'll be there day one when it does. If not, we have Yakuza now. As much as I'd love to see a conclusion to this story, I don't think I need to. I'd love to, but... And I admire Yu Suzuki's commitment to his vision in not doing it right now. But... I just don't like the series' chances of getting enough games to tell the story unabridged, as originally intended. Especially if the game is going to be, not so forthcoming with said story.
I know it's
I think this game could have done with letting us actually experience the story without so many little barriers. Like, the curfew is shorter now, and I'm repeating myself, but I kind of think if the game would let us get to the story, there would be enough space in one game to tell the story, is the point I was trying to make. And yeah, I kind of wish that was how it went, because I well, we're back to wondering whether or not Shenmue is going to finish. And, well, it's less of a burning question now for me than it was before this came out. But I still want it to happen. So yeah, those are my final thoughts on Shenmue 3. I enjoyed it. It was never going to be worth waiting 18 years for, so it's pointless to say it wasn't. Some aspects of the gameplay I didn't like so much, but largely it's an incredibly faithful Shenmue game, which is great if you wanted that. It's awful if you didn't. But I did want that, so I'm glad I got it. And yeah, I'm probably going to play through it again with foreknowledge of how the story progresses to see... Well, I did the story on Twitch streams, so I only did like 2 hours in a day, and that wasn't a lot of time to progress, so maybe that's coloured my perception a bit. So I'm going to play it again without that expectation and just like play it as it goes. And maybe I'll think better of the story that way, or maybe not. Maybe the freedom from the expectation of holding off from continuing until I'm on Twitch will just reveal how there was even less story than I thought there was. You know what I'm trying to say. But yeah, my thoughts are at the moment are, I like it. I think the story is probably weaker than the first two, or maybe that's nostalgia talking. The gameplay is almost completely unchanged, but the one change they did make I don't really like. And I think there are some changes they could have done with making. But it is a time capsule of a game, and I appreciate it for that. I really do. So, I yawned on the footage. Sorry about that. Anyway, yeah, I've rambled for long enough. It's nearly been 17.5 minutes. So I'm gonna leave this here. I hope I've made my opinions clear. And I'd be interested to hear what yours are in parts of the story. I mean, as I say, I've finished it, so... but I didn't want to spoil it in this video.
Come again soon.
But yeah, if you'd like to comment and tell me what you thought of the game. Or don't. I'm not your I'm not your boss.
I recommend Bailu Villages.
Yeah,
Old
definitely
turtle
scripting
racer.
future videos, but I didn't with the last one, so I
How much
thought,
will you put down?
well, let's be thematic and not do this one. Thematic. What am I talking about?
Which turtle will it be?
Right, well, I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. I doubt you've stuck around for this long. If you have, I'm very sorry. Like, comment, subscribe, share, standard YouTuber spiel, or not, I'm not your boss. Shenmue 3 is pretty good. I like it. If you're a Shenmue fan, Shenmue 3 is great. If you're not a Shenmue fan, this will not convert you. Right, so see you guys later.